Imagine a goddess who was born fully grown, armed, and ready for battle, springing from the head of Zeus. Her wisdom could outthink gods, her strategies could outmaneuver armies, and her gifts would shape civilizations for thousands of years. Today, we unraveled the extraordinary story of Athena, the gray-eyed goddess of wisdom, war, and craft. Before we start this story, we'd love to hear from you. Kindly let us know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you over there. Don't also forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. In the quiet hours of the ancient world, long before cities shone with lights or philosophers strolled the shaded paths of Athens, a story was whispered across generations. This tale traveled softly, from the pens of poets, through the voices of storytellers, along the marble halls of temples, and into the minds of scholars. Among the many myths that floated through the Greek imagination, few were as radiant, mysterious, or beloved as the origin of Athena. It is here, at the beginning of our journey, that we slowly approach the understanding of a goddess whose presence shaped not only Olympus, but also philosophy, warfare, craftsmanship, and the very identity of an ancient city that still stands today. Athena, a name spoken with reverent clarity, a presence that feels calm, watchful, and endlessly wise. To understand her, we must first grasp the world she entered, a world filled with shifting powers, uncertain alliances, and echoes of older gods. Her story is not just about divine birth, it is a tale of change, the passing of ages, and the fragile balance between fear and wisdom. As we begin, picture the early Greek cosmos not as a place of loud thunder and chaos, but as a vast, quiet expanse. A realm where clouds floated lightly around Mount Olympus, and the gods, though powerful, shared the same worries and hopes that humans would later project onto them. They argued, predicted, worried, and loved. Their actions, like ours, were shaped by the unseen forces of fate. It is within this atmosphere of delicate uncertainty that Athena's story takes root. The Greeks held Athena in a special kind of respect. She was not feared like other gods. She was not linked to chaos, storms, or unpredictable emotions. Instead, she embodied clarity of mind, thought, and strategy. She represented intelligence that brings order to confusion and foresight to danger. For this reason, she became the patron of heroes, artisans, lawmakers, philosophers, and eventually of the city that would become the ancient world's intellectual center, Athens. But for all her clarity, her origins remain wrapped in an elegant layer of mystery. A goddess who arrived fully formed, fully armed, yet peacefully composed. A deity born not from the usual process of divine motherhood, but through an unusual, symbolic event that has fascinated scholars for thousands of years. Her birth is not simply an episode in a myth. It is a statement, a declaration of a new kind of divine power. To understand it, we must gently step back to the time before her emergence. We must meet those who shaped her story before she ever opened her eyes. The Titans who came before the Olympians, the goddess Metis, whose wisdom sparked both love and fear, and Zeus, whose growing power was matched only by the worries that lay beneath his throne. So, let us move forward calmly and steadily, allowing the past to unfold like a tapestry. We will let the story guide us, quietly and carefully, toward the moment when the world of gods changed forever. Long before Athena's quiet, sharp wisdom illuminated the universe, the world was full of wild potential. Titans ruled vast realms, including mountains, seas, and skies. They embodied powerful forces that shaped the natural order. They were magnificent and overwhelming, yet limited by the steady currents of fate which no one, mortal or divine, could untangle. Among these ancient beings was Metis, the personification of clever intelligence and foresight. Her mind was a maze of strategy and subtlety, able to see outcomes long before they occurred. She could change her form as easily as the wind bends reeds, slipping between shapes and hiding insights that others could not find. It is no surprise that Zeus, the emerging king of the Olympians, saw in her both a peer and a guide. Their relationship stemmed from understanding, the meeting of raw power and gentle wisdom, with each enhancing the other. The world reflected this fragile balance. Mountains rose like the backs of sleeping giants, forests rolled in endless waves, and rivers flowed steadily, their currents marking time in ways both clear and hidden. Human settlements at this time mirrored the cosmos above, full of possibility, delicate in structure, and influenced by forces beyond human understanding. In this world, under the watchful eyes of the Titans and emerging Olympians, whispers of prophecy began to emerge. The Fates, silent judges of destiny, turned their attention to Zeus and Metis. They predicted the birth of a daughter whose wisdom and bravery would exceed those of gods and mortals, and a son whose strength might one day rival Zeus himself. Though subtle, these threads of fate carried significant weight, influencing kings' decisions and creating a quiet tension in every unfolding moment. Metis, always aware, grasped the importance of what she carried. Her unborn child would not just inhabit the world, she would influence it. Zeus, despite his extraordinary power, felt the weight of destiny pressing on him. An unseen force that no throne or lightning bolt could completely contain. In these early days, every glance, gesture, and whisper had the power to shift the future's balance. The cosmos watched and waited, a world caught between past and future. Titans, Olympians, and mortals moved through their lives with an instinctive awareness that change was on the way. Not sudden or explosive, but inevitable, patient, and intentional. Wisdom, quiet and persistent, flowed just beneath the surface of everything, setting the stage for what was to come. In the stillness of this emerging world, Metis's presence reached outward, affecting mountains, rivers, and hearts. Her intelligence, foresight, and patience were seeds planted in a universe preparing for change. And in that quiet, in the delicate dance of fate and power, the world awaited the arrival of a goddess who would embody the gentle art of wisdom, strategy, and the calm authority of reason. In the quiet halls of fate, where the threads of destiny wove unseen patterns across the cosmos, a message stirred. It was a whisper promising both hope and danger. The Fates, ancient figures who could see beyond the fleeting moments of mortals and gods, spoke softly of what lay ahead. Their words traveled like a gentle wind, touching mountains, forests, and rivers, finally reaching Zeus, the king of gods, and Metis, the embodiment of wisdom. The prophecy was clear yet significant. Metis would have 2 children. The first, a daughter, would shine as a beacon of intelligence and strategic insight. Her advice would exceed that of the cleverest gods. The second, a son, would possess not only great intelligence, but also formidable strength, potentially even challenging Zeus. It served as a warning, a gentle yet firm reminder that power alone could not change destiny's path. Zeus, though used to wielding lightning and ruling over gods and men, felt an unfamiliar ache in his chest. His usually steady mind struggled with the weight of possibility. He had witnessed the downfall of fathers and kings, Kronos devouring his own children in a desperate bid to avoid prophecy. The idea of history repeating itself loomed over him like the shadows of impending storms. Even his immense power could not shake the fragile tension woven by the fates. Metis, calm and aware, grasped the essence of this warning. Her intelligence went beyond mere cleverness. It included foresight, patience, and subtle action. She saw not just the surface of the prophecy, but its deeper rhythm, the interplay of fear and hope, and the careful steps necessary to navigate what lay ahead. Her quietly powerful presence balanced Zeus's raw strength with a steady stream of wisdom. In this early world, the prophecy moved silently through the cosmos, influencing the thoughts of mortals who saw signs in dreams, omens in bird flights, and patterns in the stars. Most did not grasp its meaning, yet the air was charged with a sense of expectation, as if the universe were holding its breath. Even the Titans, watching from afar, sensed the impending change, a disturbance in the balance that promised both wonder and challenge. The tension between inevitability and choice began to define the unfolding moments. Every decision and every glance shared between Zeus and Metis held weight. The world itself seemed to pause, focused on the interplay of power, wisdom, and fate. Within this silent drama, the threads of strategy were already being woven, and preparations began for a birth unlike any before. This birth had the potential to reshape gods, mortals, and divine thought itself. As days and nights passed in the early cosmos, the whispers of the prophecy settled into the stillness between stars and rivers, weaving their influence through the lives of both mortals and immortals. Zeus felt its pull with increasing intensity, while Metis, calm and determined, contemplated the careful measures needed to ensure her child emerged with the wisdom, strength, and courage foretold. In this hushed atmosphere of anticipation, the cosmos waited. Mountains stood silent, oceans stirred with quiet expectation, and the stars shimmered as if in recognition of the intelligence about to emerge. Somewhere in the stillness of the world, the first seeds of Athena's wisdom began to pulse, not as thunder or spectacle, but as a patient, invisible force, quietly preparing for the moment when the daughter of prophecy would begin to shape the destinies of both gods and mortals. Zeus paced the marble halls of Olympus. Each step echoed like a drum of fate. The prophecy of the fates burned in his mind. Metis would bear a daughter wise beyond measure, and a son whose power could rival even his own. Every king fears losing his throne, but Zeus dreaded the collapse of the very order of Olympus. Metis, the Titaness of cunning and wisdom, had been his closest ally and equal. She shaped victories with her intellect, guided his strategies, and quietly outmaneuvered gods and mortals alike. Yet now, her brilliance also sparked his deepest fear. If the prophecy came true, no amount of strength could stop it. She did not suspect his plan. Zeus invited her to show her shape-shifting magic, a skill she wielded with the precision of a master artist. Metis transformed into a lion, a bird, and a serpent, curling into impossibly small shapes.
Each demonstration proved her unmatched cunning. Then came the moment of inevitability. As she became smaller, almost invisible, Zeus acted. He did not use brute force. He relied on the quiet precision of a god who understood timing and consequence. He swallowed her whole. Inside him, Metis's wisdom did not vanish. It became part of Zeus's mind, flowing into the depths of his thoughts. But the prophecy would not be stopped. The child she carried continued to grow, not in a womb, but in the seat of Zeus's consciousness. Every heartbeat, every thought, pulsed with the essence of a goddess yet unborn. The weight of her life pressed upon him. Headaches tore through his skull, unyielding and relentless, as if his own power had turned against him. The other gods watched in silent concern, sensing the strain on their king. Even Zeus, with all his might, could not escape the consequences of his choices. It was then that Hephaestus stepped forward, the divine craftsman. His bronze tools glinted in the light. He approached not with hesitation, but with calm precision born of necessity. The world seemed to hold its breath.
Its breath for what would come next. A birth unlike any before, a moment that would change Olympus forever. Within Zeus's mind, Metis's intelligence coiled like a living river. The goddess-to-be stirred with purpose. She inherited her mother's wisdom and her father's power, a combination unlike any other in the pantheon. Soon, she would emerge, fully formed, armed, and ready to define what it meant to be a goddess of strategy, courage, and insight. The halls of Olympus trembled, though the gods could not say why. Zeus clutched his head, the pressure building from within like a storm behind his skull. Something monumental was about to unfold, something unlike any birth the world had ever known. Then came the strike. Hephaestus, hammer in hand, approached with calm precision. The bronze axe gleamed as if alive, and with one measured swing, Zeus's skull split open. A sound like thunder rolled across Olympus, and in that instant, Athena emerged, fully grown, armored, and unflinching. Her gray eyes burned with intelligence and determination. The bronze helmet on her head caught the light, reflecting 1,000 possibilities of strategy and foresight. In her right hand, a spear glinted with the promise of precision. In her left, the aegis bore the fearsome head of Medusa, a symbol of protection and divine authority. The gods were silent. Not even Zeus could summon words to describe the miracle before him. Athena did not cry, did not reach for comfort. She stood tall, a goddess born of both wisdom and power, the perfect embodiment of her mother's cunning and her father's authority. Every movement she made spoke of her destiny. Her armor fit as though it had been molded for her very form. Her weapons were extensions of herself. And though she was the child of prophecy, there was no hint of helplessness. She was ready, fully armed, not just for battle, but for leadership, for guidance, for shaping the fate of gods and mortals alike. From the moment Athena set foot on Olympus, the world seemed to shift. Her presence carried weight of intellect, strategy, and quiet authority. She was both daughter and equal to Zeus, a living testament to the intertwining of divine wisdom and raw power. The prophecy had not been averted, it had been fulfilled, but in a way far beyond mortal or immortal imagining. Athena would not simply be a goddess of wisdom. She would be a force that could shape civilizations, a protector of heroes, and a strategist whose decisions would echo through time. Even the other Olympians, accustomed to displays of might and magic, could not hide their awe.
This was not a child born. This was a goddess stepping fully into her destiny, her every action a promise of what was to come. And so, Athena's journey began, not as an infant cradled in mortal arms, but as a fully formed embodiment of thought and strategy, ready to walk among gods and men, to challenge, guide, and inspire. Olympus itself would never be the same. Athena's first steps on Olympus marked her arrival and the beginning of her purpose. The other gods, still recovering from her remarkable birth, watched as she looked outward, seeing the world clearly in a way few could understand. From the moment she appeared, Athena's symbols began to define her. An owl sat nearby, stirring its wings, a creature of quiet observation and keen sight. Its large, bright eyes reflected her insight, capable of seeing in darkness what others could not. The owl would become her constant companion, a living symbol of wisdom and watchfulness. It was said that when the owl watched, neither deceit nor danger could hide, a true reflection of Athena's mind, always alert and calculating. However, Athena's influence reached far beyond mere observation. She touched the earth with the tip of her spear. From the rocky soil of Attica, the first olive tree grew, its silver-green leaves shimmering in the sunlight. This tree, born from divine foresight, provided gifts that would feed humanity for generations, nourishment from its fruit, oil for cooking and lighting, wood for building, and a symbol of peace for those who cared for it. The olive tree would become both her offering and her mark, a clear representation of the practical wisdom she brought to the world. Her aegis, a mighty shield adorned with the Gorgon's head, showed another side of her nature, protection through authority. The visage of Medusa instilled fear and caution, reminding both gods and mortals that Athena's strength combined intellect with strategy. She did not wield power carelessly. Her guidance was thoughtful, measured, and exact. Athena's domains, wisdom, warfare, and craftsmanship were not random. They connected, each reflecting the other. Her wisdom guided strategy in battle, her skill in crafts advanced civilization, and her foresight ensured that every action had a purpose, creating a world that balanced intellect with strength. Heroes would later seek her advice, cities would honor her patronage, and civilizations would thrive under the principles she represented. Even among gods known for unpredictability and emotion, Athena's presence stood out. While Ares enjoyed the chaos of battle, she saw war as a careful task. Planning, discipline, and objectives were her tools. The battlefield was not just a site of bloodshed, but a platform for intelligence, strategy, and moral judgment. Her guidance ensured that power served reason and that might protected instead of destroyed. In her crafts, Athena's wisdom appeared as tangible beauty and utility. From weaving intricate textiles to designing fine armor, she raised skill to an art form. Every object she touched served a purpose, each creation a lesson in precision, thought, and imagination. Civilization itself seemed to reflect the cleverness and care of her hand.
In this way, Athena's arrival changed not only Olympus, but the mortal world. Her symbols, the owl, the olive tree, the aegis, the spear, were not just objects. They were extensions of her mind, her principles, and her impact. They spoke of vigilance, provision, protection, and strategic action, guiding heroes and cities toward paths of foresight and lasting success. Athena had emerged fully armed, but her next steps would be deliberate. She would approach the world with care, choosing mortals to support and leading them toward outcomes that favored wisdom over recklessness. As she looked at the growing settlements of men, she began to plan her first significant actions that would shape not only warfare and craftsmanship, but the very essence of civilization itself. With the olive tree planted and her symbols firmly established, Athena focused on the growing settlements of men. Among them, a rocky hilltop in Attica caught her eye. This site would eventually become the Acropolis, a center for strategy, culture, and civilization. However, Athena was not the only deity interested in this strategic location. Poseidon, the god of the sea, also desired this settlement, wanting to gain control through water and maritime influence. The two gods decided to settle their claim through a contest. They would each offer gifts to the people, who would choose their patron based on usefulness and insight. It was a rare moment in myth when divine power acknowledged, even slightly, the judgment of mortals. The stakes were high. The winner would gain not just a city, but also shape its future for generations. Poseidon acted first. He raised his mighty trident and struck the limestone of the Acropolis. A spring erupted from the stone, clear and sparkling at first glance, but its water had the unmistakable taste of the sea, salty, undrinkable, and unsuitable for irrigation. The people marveled at the display, sensing the raw power behind it, but also recognizing its limits. Poseidon's gift promised naval strength and dominance in trade, but it offered little support for sustainable life. Then Athena approached, her movements calm and purposeful. While Poseidon showed raw strength, she displayed wisdom. She placed her spear on the rocky soil and tapped it once. From that touch, the first olive tree sprang forth, its silver-green leaves shimmering in the sun. Within moments, it bore fruit, rich, nourishing, versatile, and enduring. Unlike Poseidon's spring, Athena's gift promised sustenance, trade, and peace. It symbolized foresight, a divine investment in the long-term success of the city. The people of the settlement, led by King Cecrops, their wise, serpent-bodied ruler, considered both gifts. They saw the allure of Poseidon's display of power, but understood the lasting value of Athena's olive tree. This choice reflected more than practicality. It showed the priorities of a society that valued reason, strategy, and lasting growth over immediate spectacle. The olive tree would feed, protect, and unite them, shaping the city's identity for centuries. Athena's victory in the contest was clear. The city would be named Athens, honoring her gift and the wisdom it represented. From this moment, the olive tree became sacred, cultivated and preserved as a living testament to the goddess's foresight. Later, temples were built in her honor on the Acropolis, centralizing her influence both spiritually and politically. This contest did more than determine a city's patron. It established a principle that would define Athens itself: the triumph of reason over impulse, planning over brute force, and foresight over fleeting glory. Athena's intervention marked the beginning of a special relationship between the goddess and mortal civilization, one where strategy, craft, and caution would guide not only warfare, but also governance, trade, and culture. As the city grew under her patronage, Athena's focus extended beyond simple settlement. She began to observe its heroes, craftsmen, and leaders, considering how her wisdom could guide them. The seeds she planted,
both literal and metaphorical, would flourish, shaping not just Athens, but also the principles that would resonate through Greek civilization: vigilance, intelligence, and thoughtful action. In the quiet moments after the contest, as the people admired the olive tree and Poseidon's salty spring, Athena's thoughts turned to the future. She was more than a patron. She was a strategist, a teacher, and a protector. Her influence would reach beyond trees and cities, into the hearts and minds of men, guiding heroes and shaping the course of mythic history. With Athens thriving under her care, Athena's influence reached beyond the city's walls. She watched the world of mortals closely, noting the strengths and weaknesses of both men and kings. Among them, certain individuals stood out. These were heroes whose bravery, cleverness, and strategic thinking mirrored her own divine traits. Athena, always the strategist, chose to guide rather than act directly, nudging events subtly while allowing mortal agency to shine. One such hero was Odysseus, king of Ithaca, known for his wit and cunning. His reputation had begun to spread across Greece. Athena recognized in him the perfect mix of intellect and action. Unlike other warriors who relied only on strength, Odysseus faced challenges with observation, patience, and adaptability. These were traits Athena valued more than brute force. She later became part of his journey, providing guidance in moments of danger, but never undermining his judgment, ensuring that his victories were truly his. Other mortals also sought her favor in war and craftsmanship. Diomedes, fierce yet disciplined, represented the kind of warrior Athena could influence. Under her keen eye, he learned not just to fight, but to think, to act with precision, foresee the enemy's moves, and maintain order amid the chaos of battle. Through subtle support, Athena enhanced the natural abilities of these heroes without taking away their freedom, showing that wisdom combined with skill could achieve what sheer strength could not.
Resources. Her influence was felt not through brute force, but through the clever organization of men, tactics, and morale. Her guidance also contrasted sharply with other gods. Ares, the god of chaotic warfare, reveled in the violence and bloodshed of battle without considering the consequences or strategies. Aphrodite intervened for her favorites, motivated by emotion rather than reason. Athena's approach was thoughtful and balanced. She nurtured heroes who could blend human creativity with divine insight, transforming potential chaos into effective action. This careful shaping of mortal affairs reflected Athena's broader belief. True strength comes from intelligence used wisely, courage tempered by judgment, and power wielded responsibly. She taught that the greatest victories come not from aggression alone, but from preparation, observation, and understanding. Mortals who followed her guidance became not just warriors, but thinkers, diplomats, and innovators, representatives of Athena's wisdom on earth. Even during intense conflict, her influence brought an element of creation and defense. Her actions often saved lives, built alliances, and maintained social order. Athena sought results that benefited humanity in the long run. She aimed for victories that held lasting significance rather than seeking glory through destruction. As the armies of Greece gathered around Troy, Athena's role became essential, not simply as a participant, but as a mentor, strategist, and unseen guide. Each clever tactic, daring plan, and moment of insight carried her touch. Through her guidance, heroes learned that wisdom could be as strong as swords, that foresight could surpass brute strength, and that strategy could change the course of history. The goddess's watchful presence reminded mortals that every action had a consequence, Every decision mattered, and even small choices, when guided by intelligence, could alter the fate of nations. In this way, Athena's legacy extended far beyond the walls of Athens, reaching deep into the hearts of men and the stories of legend, a testament to the lasting power of wisdom paired with courage. The plains of Troy shook under the weight of armies. Chariots thundered across the ground, the clashing of bronze shields echoed in the valley, and the air filled with dust, sweat, and the cries of men and gods. Athena watched from above, her eyes sharp and her mind calculating every movement, choice, and opportunity for victory, born not just from strength, but from foresight and cunning. The city of Troy had long been a jewel of wealth, culture, and strength, protected by walls that appeared nearly impossible to breach. Its defenders were fierce, aided by gods who had chosen sides, each with their own agendas, pride, and passions. Apollo helped the Trojans, healing their wounded and boosting their ranks, while Aphrodite shielded her favorite heroes, adding luck and courage to their efforts. In contrast, Athena's approach was subtle but decisive. She did not engage directly. Instead, she instilled strategy and wisdom in the hearts and minds of those who would follow her will. Odysseus, guided by Athena's insights, moved purposefully across the battlefield. Where others rushed headlong into combat, he surveyed the scene, calculated and adjusted his plans. His companions followed his lead, though they remained unaware of the goddess quietly influencing their choices. Diomedes struck precisely, his spear guided not only by skill, but also by Athena's silent counsel, predicting enemy attacks and exploiting their weaknesses. Each Greek warrior under her influence became more than a soldier. They turned into instruments of intelligence, living extensions of divine strategy. Yet as Athena's chosen fought, chaos erupted all around them. Ares took pleasure in the destruction, pushing warriors into blind rage. Aphrodite intervened to protect her favorites, often creating confusion and danger. Athena's goal was not to completely control the chaos, but to harness it, transforming scattered aggression into coordinated strength. Every successful maneuver, each narrow escape, and every tactical advantage could be traced back to her quiet guidance. Yet as this tumultuous stage played out, the Trojan walls appeared unbreakable. Hector, noble and steadfast, rallied his troops with courage and wit. Each Greek assault met fierce resistance, and every plan faced the city's impressive defenses. Athena's wisdom proved essential. She whispered solutions to her chosen champions, suggested unexpected paths, and urged patience where rash actions could lead to failure. Victories came not from sheer force, but from clever maneuvers, accurate timing, and careful coordination of allies. Lessons Athena had taught to heroes like Odysseus and Diomedes. The battlefield turned into a stage of intelligence versus chaos. Athena's presence underscored a truth that the Greeks would never forget. Real strength lay not in uncontrolled anger, but in thoughtful action. When the dust settled, when the wounded received care and strategies were adjusted, it became clear that victory belonged to those who grasped the balance of foresight, discipline, and timing. Athena's influence turned ordinary men into legendary heroes, proving that divine wisdom combined with human initiative could change the course of history. As night fell, and torches lit the scarred fields of Troy, Athena's influence remained. Her strategies continued to mold the movements of armies, the bravery of soldiers, and the results of skirmishes. She was no distant observer or tyrant dictating every blow. She was a mentor, a guide, a force revealing the power of intelligence in a world often ruled by impulse and chaos. On this battlefield, the essence of Athena, wisdom applied,
Courage guided, power tempered, was etched into the memories of all who fought. Every hero who survived, every victory achieved, carried a trace of her influence. As the first stars appeared over Troy, the goddess's eyes watched the unfolding events, calm, calculated, and ready for the next challenge. The dawn broke over the battered plains of Troy, casting pale light across the remains of the night's fierce combat. Smoke still curled from the fires of war, while the cries of men and horses echoed faintly in the distance. Athena moved silently among the minds of her chosen champions, invisible yet ever present. She wove her intelligence into their strategy, demonstrating the skill of a master artisan.
Odysseus crouched behind a ridge, surveying the enemy lines. His sharp eyes detected patterns in the chaos. He noticed subtle gaps in Trojan formations, overextended flanks, and tired warriors who had grown careless amid the battle. Each observation became a note in Athena's symphony of strategy. Her counsel guided his thoughts, not through commands, but as whispers that sharpened his insight. A single decision, executed precisely, could shift the tide of the war. Diomedes moved through the chaos with lethal grace, striking key targets identified by Athena's guidance. His spear, steady and sharp, found gaps in armor, disrupted enemy lines, and spread confusion among the Trojan ranks. Athena's hand was evident in every maneuver, every feint, and every tactical choice. Although the goddess did not fight, her presence reshaped the battlefield. She showed that true power lay in strategy, discipline, and intelligence, rather than sheer force. Meanwhile, Hector, the steadfast defender of Troy, sensed the changing tides of battle. Though brave and skilled, he could not fully anticipate the unseen influence guiding his adversaries. Each Greek assault seemed driven by foresight rather than luck. Their movements were precise, coordinated, and relentless. Athena's careful orchestration revealed a subtle lesson of war. Intelligence, timing, and insight often outweighed brute strength. Amid the chaos, Athena focused on smaller, critical decisions. The placement of troops, the timing of reinforcements, the clever use of reserves. Each choice created ripples across the battlefield. Soldiers who followed her guidance found themselves in the right place at the right time, turning potential disaster into opportunity. Every victory, no matter how small, reinforced the principle she embodied. Power, guided by wisdom, was unstoppable. Athena's influence reached beyond the Greek warrior's actions. She inspired clarity in moments of doubt, courage in moments of fear, and patience where impulsiveness could lead to ruin. Her chosen champions operated not as individuals, but as extensions of her vision. Their actions became synchronized through strategy, foresight, and cunning. The battlefield became less a scene of random slaughter and more a display of calculated brilliance, a testament to Athena's unmatched intellect and tactical skill. By midday, the Greeks began to gain ground. The walls of Troy, once thought invincible, faced relentless pressure from coordinated attacks informed by Athena's insight. Trojan defenders strained under the assault, their formation faltering in subtle but decisive ways. Athena's influence was never overt. It never imposed itself. Yet it manifested in every decisive action, every narrowly won skirmish, and every clever maneuver that brought the Greeks closer to their goal. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, the battlefield showed the marks of Athena's methodical victories. The Greek forces, once scattered and uncertain, moved with unity, purpose, and remarkable efficiency. The goddess's lessons were imprinted in the minds of mortals. Foresight and intelligence could surpass raw strength, and courage combined with wisdom could transform even the most chaotic conflicts. While the war continued, Athena's mind already considered the next move, the next intervention, and the next opportunity to guide her champions toward victory. She was not just a participant in the Trojan saga, she was the unseen force behind its unfolding,
proving that wisdom and strategy, when applied with precision, could achieve what force alone never could. The evening sky over Troy was streaked with crimson and gold. The battlefield still echoed with the clash of bronze and the shouts of warriors. Athena's gaze swept across the Greek lines, assessing and predicting. She knew they couldn't win the war through brute force alone. The outcome relied on careful planning, subtle guidance, and the steady courage of those she chose to inspire. Odysseus, always watchful, noticed the slight tremors in the Trojan ranks. Small missteps, a shield dropped here, a poorly timed charge there, revealed cracks that others might have missed. Athena whispered possibilities into his mind, not commands, but visions of actions that would take advantage of those gaps. He acted quickly, sending scouts to flank the enemy while organizing reinforcements to cover weak positions. Each choice, guided by the goddess, had cascading effects that began to change the battlefield in favor of the Greeks. In the heart of Troy, Hector sensed the change in battle. Though strong and brave, even he could not match the precision of Athena's influence. Every Greek maneuver seemed eerily planned, coordinated beyond mortal understanding. Frustration gripped the Trojan defenders as their once strong defenses began to fail under the weight of strategic attacks. Athena's presence felt invisible, yet its power was clear. The goddess then focused on Diomedes, whose bravery bordered on recklessness. She tempered his impulsive strikes with foresight, guiding him toward key targets whose capture would weaken the Trojan lines and protect Greek allies. With each successful maneuver, the confidence of the Greek soldiers grew. Their unity strengthened by a purpose that went beyond normal capability. Athena's lessons in strategy and wisdom were unfolding on the very ground of Troy. Meanwhile, the smaller skirmishes, the subtle exchanges that could be overlooked, became crucial. Greek archers found their targets, traps and ambushes were executed precisely, and reinforcements appeared at the most critical times. Athena's interventions were not overwhelming. They were careful, calculated, and invisible. Mortals carried out her strategy without realizing they were being guided, highlighting her mastery of influence over raw domination. As night drew closer, the tide of battle shifted clearly. The Greeks, once under pressure and uncertain, now moved forward confidently, taking advantage of Trojan mistakes and securing ground that had once been contested. Athena's guidance lit up every decision, showing that intelligence, preparation, and courage together could beat even the toughest opponents. In the quiet moments between clashes, Athena watched her champions with quiet satisfaction. Odysseus, Diomedes, and others had absorbed her lessons. Their actions reflected her wisdom, as well as their growing understanding of strategy and insight. The goddess had transformed them from skilled warriors into instruments of careful brilliance, each move a part of her grand plan.
By the deepening twilight, the battlefield showed the marks of Athena's influence. Troy was still standing, but its defenders were strained, their formations weakened, and their confidence shaken. The war, which once seemed balanced, now swayed precariously toward the Greeks. Athena's influence had not only shifted momentum, but had shown the lasting truth she represented, that skill, strategy, and intelligence could surpass sheer strength, changing the course of even the toughest battles. As the stars began to dot the night sky, Athena's mind was already strategizing the next moves, the final steps that would decide the fate of Troy. Her champions rested briefly, unaware that their victories were guided by a goddess whose wisdom went beyond human understanding, and whose patience and insight had set the stage for the ultimate turning point in the war. Night fully settled over the plains surrounding Troy, but the glow of fires and the clash of arms turned the battlefield into a scene of intense tension. Athena watched closely from above and in the shadows of human perception. Every move, every pause, every breath from the fighters had consequences she could foresee and influence. This was the moment she had been training for, a peak of insight, planning, and the careful development of her champion's abilities. Odysseus crouched behind a ridge, watching the enemy lines. Athena's guidance flowed through his mind, not as an order, but as an extension of his own cleverness. He plotted traps and feints that lured the Trojans into poor positions. Diomedes, ready to exploit any opening, acted with deadly precision, his every move reflecting Athena's strategic plan. The battlefield resembled a chessboard, with each unit a piece whose potential increased under the goddess's insight. Hector, noble and relentless, sensed the changing situation. His instincts had led Troy for years, yet they struggled against an enemy managed by divine wisdom. Every effort to regroup was predicted, every tactic countered with finesse. Athena's actions remained hidden, but their impact was significant. Even Ares, the god of war, looked on in frustration as his chaotic influence was restrained by Athena's clear strategy. Amidst this chaos, Athena focused on key moments that would determine the outcome. She encouraged lesser-known Greek heroes to perform unexpected acts of bravery, making sure their efforts fit into the larger narrative. A wall held at a vital pass, a bridge defended against overwhelming numbers, a river crossing secured, all small victories stitched into a larger narrative that would decide the war. Each action, while seeming spontaneous, was guided by Athena's unseen hand. The goddess also countered divine interferences. Aphrodite tried to protect her favored Trojans, while Apollo aimed to create confusion among the Greeks. Athena's intellect foresaw these divine actions. Subtle misdirections and clever tactics neutralized their effects, turning potential threats into chances. Mortals acted with bravery and clarity, unaware of the invisible guidance ensuring their success. The turning point came as the Greek forces, disciplined and organized, advanced toward Troy's central stronghold. Athena inspired a bold move, Odysseus leading a strike team to exploit the weak gates, Diomedes flanking to block reinforcements, and other champions launching attacks in perfect harmony. The precision and foresight shown that night became legendary, highlighting Athena's unmatched wisdom in strategy and human skill. As dawn's first light painted the sky, the battlefield had changed irreparably. Troy's defenses were shattered, its defenders weary, and the Greek forces ready for decisive action. Athena's champions, strengthened and shaped by her guidance, had demonstrated the power of intelligence over force, planning over impulsiveness, and wisdom balanced with decisive action. Yet Athena's work was not done. The goddess's mind already considered the final stages, resolving the conflict, protecting her favored mortals, and upholding the values she wished to instill. Courage guided by thought, strength tempered by insight, and victory achieved through discipline and wisdom. The war had shifted, and the goddess who emerged fully armed from Zeus's head continued to shape history, not as a distant observer, but as an active shaper of fate. The smoke of battle had begun to lift, revealing the battered but unbroken landscape of Troy. Athena surveyed the aftermath from the heights of the Acropolis in spirit. Her gray eyes reflected the dawn of a new era. The war had tested both mortals and gods, exposing weaknesses, revealing courage, and proving that wisdom, when combined with action, could shape the course of history.
Odysseus, Diomedes, and the other Greek champions stood amidst the ruins, exhausted yet resolute. Athena's presence had been subtle and invisible to most, but it was inescapably felt in the courage that surged through their veins, the clarity in their decisions, and the precision of their maneuvers. The goddess showed that victory did not come only from brute force, but from strategy, foresight, and the wise use of strength. Troy, once proud and fortified, now bore the marks of conflict, but Athena's efforts had prevented unnecessary destruction. Civilian lives had been spared, and the city's legacy was preserved even in defeat. The goddess guided her champions to minimize suffering while ensuring justice was served. This was a lesson in the ethical use of power that would resonate for generations. Beyond the battlefield, Athena's influence stretched into mortal civilization in lasting ways. Cities turned to her for guidance in governance, strategy, and craftsmanship. Her gifts, the olive tree, the owl, and the aegis, became symbols of protection, wisdom, insight, and the balance between power and responsibility. Communities flourished under her guidance, embracing foresight, cooperation, and the careful application of knowledge to improve human life. Athena's relationship with mortals was one of partnership, not dominance. She nurtured talent, guided intellect, and inspired innovation. From the military strategies of heroes to the delicate weavings of artisans, her wisdom infused human efforts with purpose and clarity. Her lessons were subtle, often appearing as inspiration or insight, but they transformed entire societies, embedding reason, discipline, and creativity into their culture. As the Olympians looked on, even the volatile Ares recognized the difference between his chaotic approach to war and Athena's disciplined strategy.
Action, protection of what mattered, and the creation of order from chaos. Her role during the Trojan War demonstrated the full range of her abilities: intelligence, courage, foresight, and the power to influence events without causing fear or unnecessary destruction. Athena's birth from Zeus's head had marked her as extraordinary, a goddess whose wisdom was part of her essence. Now her actions in the mortal realm affirmed the full scope of her origin. She was a strategist, a protector, a supporter of the arts, a builder of civilization, and a champion of thoughtful courage. Her legacy would outlive the war, the heroes, and even the cities themselves, living on in every act of intelligent, principled action inspired by her guidance. As the sun rose fully over the horizon, Athena's presence remained, not as a distant deity removed from human affairs, but as an enduring force, subtle, wise, and resolute. She had shaped the outcome of wars, guided mortals, and sown the seeds of civilization itself. Her story was more than just about birth, battle, or strategy. It was about lasting wisdom that continues to illuminate the world for those seeking guidance, courage, and insight. Athena, the gray-eyed goddess of wisdom and warfare, emerged from the unique circumstances of her birth to leave a lasting mark on both gods and mortals. Her legacy: intelligence applied with purpose, strength tempered with restraint, and guidance that inspired growth, remains a testament to the lasting power of thoughtful action. Athena's story begins in an extraordinary way. She sprang fully formed from Zeus's head, symbolizing the blend of wisdom, courage, and foresight. She is a goddess whose guidance reaches beyond the battlefield and into the hearts and minds of people. From influencing the outcome of the Trojan War to giving the olive tree and inspiring craftsmanship, Athena shows that true power does not come from chaos or brute strength. It comes from intelligence, careful planning, and purposeful action. Her presence reminds us that wisdom is a force that protects, nurtures, and transforms. Her legacy still exists today. We see it in the structures of civilization, the strategies of leaders, the arts and crafts of skilled hands, and the quiet moments when insight turns challenges into opportunities. Athena teaches us that courage guided by reason and strength tempered by intelligence form the foundation for lasting change. Thus, the gray-eyed goddess watches over the world. She is not a distant deity, but a symbol of human potential when guided by wisdom, foresight, and thoughtful action. Her story encourages us to seek knowledge, act with purpose, and confront challenges with clarity and courage, knowing that even in the toughest battles, wisdom can win.